Welcome, everybody, to the Beer Guys Radio Show. As always, we are happy to be here. We're happy to have you with us. I'm Tim Dennis. Brian Hewitt, how's it going?
It's going well. It's going well. How are you doing, Tim?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's been kind of a busy, crazy week, but, all in all, I'm good. Rainy. It's been very rainy here. So speaking of the rain, Mo Mike Nate, you actually had some flood warnings. You were supposed to get washed out over your way, weren't you?
Yeah, I was sitting at my local beer shop last night, and all of a sudden, everybody's phone in the store simultaneously just started buzzing and beeping and ringing.
Yeah.
And we had a flash flood warning from where we were sitting. I was like, "Man, the best place to be washed away by the rains because I got these suds to make it a little bit
Blood
more
us
easy
out.
on us."
Lock us in, man. Lock us in. Well, I'm assuming you survived, correct?
Yeah, I believe I survived. I'm here for the show.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
It's
that's
debatable.
fair enough.
We'll find out by the end of the show if he's actually
We'll
alive or
see
not.
soon.
Yeah.
And you know what? We want to say hi to Stephen Pete. Stephen, always good to have
Hey.
you here hanging out with us. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. Guys, we got a lot going on this week. Brian, before we get into this, you had quite an experience this weekend. I'm jealous, I'll say. I'll start by saying I'm jealous because I had a scheduling conflict, and although I had the invitation to this, was not able to attend. So out of the kindness of your heart, you and the missus went and represented Beer Guys Radio.
That's right.
What'd you do, man? What'd you do?
I went and saw an Atlanta United game against the Columbus Crew. I don't follow all the various teams too
MLS?
closely. Yeah. I don't follow too closely, but I always like going to a live game, and I can't believe how much fun this was. I mean, I've seen a lot of Braves games. I've seen some football games, and they're all fun, but I get it. The soccer games are really exciting to watch. It was just constant. I love it. It was constantly going. It's so much better in person than it is watching it on TV. It's like night and day difference.
Was that your first United match?
It's my first soccer match ever. I've
At
just
all?
never been to
I
one.
still
Yeah.
haven't been, Brian. I still
Yeah.
haven't been. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the first one I ever went to, and so Sweetwater hooked us up. We went and did some pretty elaborate tailgating. They had this giant gulch area that they had a whole pool and a platform and like a fake house, and they were pouring beers, and they were doing it was crazy. They had barbecue, and then we went in. I got to do a center field thing where I was one of the people holding out this massive banner in the center of the field, and people are going nuts, and players came out and went through a whole procession, and I couldn't see everything that was going on. I didn't really find out. There was supposed to be a celebrity there doing something at the same time while I was there. I didn't see who it was, but there's a lot of cheering. So I'm like,
Okay.
It was all a lot of fun. And then watching the game was great. So, I mean, thanks to
And did
Sweetwater
Atlanta win?
Yes, actually 2-1.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good
yeah.
stuff, man.
That's
Good
probably
stuff.
the most
Yeah.
important part. Oh, spoiler, in case anybody hasn't watched it or
Spoiler.
hasn't heard about it by now. But yeah,
Like most
2-1,
people
they won.
there, they know. They're not waiting 3, 4, 5 days or a week or what have you to check their team scores.
I want to say it was like a good 30, 40 minutes into the game, and it was 1-0, and it was Columbus that was ahead, and then Atlanta came back and got 2. So it was a little weird. It went from kind of like, what's happening? We're losing, and then they turned it around. So it worked out well.
Yeah.
It was a great night. Yeah,
and they introduced a new beer. I think that's kind of, there's a partnership, and they had a new beer out, right?
Yeah. It's the Rowdy Peach IPA. It took me a second there, but yes, it's a very peach forward IPA. They were pouring it there, and it is very peachy. And it's a good hanging out tailgating beer. The whole thing was a lot of fun. So go check that out, and definitely go check out a soccer game, man. I can't recommend that enough. That's a lot of fun. I don't think people need me to tell them that, but in case you were doubting it, it's a lot of fun. Though,
I do have to say, Brian, I would have enjoyed doing that, but I have to say I did enjoy what I did. I'm at my day job. I'm co-chair of our fundraising team, and we support St. Jude. So I want to give a shout out to Eventide Brewing, who partnered with us. This is 2 years in a row that they've partnered with us to do a happy hour at the brewery where they donate a portion of proceeds to St. Jude. So we went out, had a fundraiser, and invited people to come share a beer with us, just have a good time. So thanks, Eventide. We really appreciate that. And, supporting St. Jude, doing good stuff out there, Brian.
Very cool. Yeah. Very cool indeed. Yeah.
Nate, what'd you do this weekend?
To be honest with you, the weekend was half a week ago, and I don't remember what I did this weekend. I know on Sunday I went over to a buddy's house in Lithia Springs, and Did some country hangouts on Sunday. It was raining. There was a golf cart involved, a pop-up tent.
Okay.
We were smoking pork butt, so just some real casual hanging out.
Chilling like a villain, huh?
Like a villain. Brought over a whole bunch of big, bold stouts to share with the boys. I think the highlight of the day was Monday night's Seven Deadly Sins or Seven Deadly Stouts. That was
that's
the winner
stuff.
for the share. Yeah.
Very cool, man. Sounds like a good time. Well, guys, let's dive into our beers of the week. I'll get us kicked off here. I am having from Woven Water Brewing, I have their Photonic, which is described as a blurry India Pale Ale. So that's what I'm getting into. And Brian, I'm also going to share my scent of the day.
Oh, your scent of the day.
Today I'm wearing from Tom Ford. I did some layering today, Brian. I have their Oud Wood and Tobacco Vanille on.
Ooh.
And I thought those complemented each other. So Brian, I'm projecting notes of vanilla, a little bit of cinnamon cookie there. I get some cardamom in it, some nuttiness, I believe almond, I would say, and a very nice base note of a pipe tobacco. So very woody, earthy, pipe tobacco-y, very nice. And back in the 80s, I had an uncle that he's unfortunately passed, but respected him a lot, good dude. And every time he came to visit us, we had to go to the mall to Tinderbox because he collected pipes. What's the white stuff that Meerschaum?
Oh, the Meerschaum pipes. Yeah.
So he collected a lot of those. He had some really cool ones that he displayed, but he always wanted to go there to check out the pipes and pick up some tobacco. And the Tobacco Vanille and the Oud Wood together, the fragrance that gives reminds me of going to a Tinderbox in the mall in the 1980s. So got that going for me. So Brian, how about you? What's your beer for the week here?
All right. I pre-gamed with a Jester King Le Petit Prince, which is a farmhouse table beer at 2.9%. And I don't know. I every time I have it, I think, man, this is such a great beer. I should have it more often. I guess I don't see it that often. And when you see 2.9%, you're like, oh, I don't know about that. It doesn't seem like that's worth the price of admission. It's really good. Like it's light, it's crisp, it's super dry. It's got some funk to it. It's like the farmhouse bready. I like it a lot. I mean, I would drink the heck out of it. I just got the one here. What's interesting is I always think back about, I think after the first time I ever have it, I didn't really care for it, but I think I'm getting it confused with another beer because this is a very light colored beer. I don't have much of it left, but it's a very light one. I remember, I think the first time I had it, it was like flat and darker. And I think I might be getting it confused with a different beer because I have never had one that didn't look like this that I can recall. So recommend it. If you see the 2.9% and you're scared away by that, I think, no, don't even worry about that. That means you can have more of them. But, so anyway, beyond that, enjoying that, I'm going to get into another Jester King, and this was an accident. I thought I grabbed a beer from a different brewery, but I didn't. So Jester King's got a West Coast IPA. I've never had that. I'm going to get into that next very soon. And eventually I'm going to get into an Omegang Bourbon Barrel Aged Manhattan Shine, which is an amber ale with black cherry and orange flavors. And I think they've got some various colorings added to it, too. I think it's meant to be like a Manhattan cocktail or something like that. So that is what I'm looking at. How about you, Nate? What do you got?
So today, in keeping up with the South Surfer Summers theme, I have one beer, my beer of the week, and that's from Jackie O's, the Vanilla Coffee Bourbon Barrel Aged Dark Apparition, which is a Russian Imperial Stout. Big, boozy, lots of whiskey notes in this one. I get the coffee in it, which is really nice. And this beer is a little over 13%, so I'm going to just nurse this the entire show.
Sipping beer. What you got to do sometimes, man.
That's what one does.
Did you say the ABV on that one? What was it?
It's 13.2.
Okay, so not contraband here in Georgia, but getting up towards that limit.
Absolutely.
Good.
I didn't do the whole "what do I smell like" thing, but I did kind of rip off Tim because I heard about what he was doing. So I did tobacco vanilla or tobacco vanille.
Vanille.
Vanille. Is it vanille? I've never known how to say it.
I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah, I did that. I did the oud wood, and then I did ombre leather. So mine's like old leathery. What's it? I forget what it was. I had a name for it. So I've got 3 on to beat your 2. And honestly, it's too much. It's just like it's all the stuff. It's leather, it's tobacco, it's vanilla.
Did it go too far?
cherry nut.
A little too much.
You know what? Like everything I do, it's too much, and I love it. So I'm
Okay.
good with it.
All right.
But yeah, it probably is too far. But
So here's an interesting
regrets.
question for you, Brian. How much did you spend on perfume this week?
this week, nothing. All of it's just arriving. I spent it last week.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Gotcha. You know what? Our buddy Tyler down in Texas said he is pre-gaming with a Muffindiculous from Saloon Door Brewing. He said that is an RIS with blueberries at 11.8%. And he said his scent of the day is chlorine as he's in the pool while he's listening.
And I can't
Very
think of a better setup to be listening to us
Chlorine
from.
the stouts. More
I hear that
stouts are for
projects
summer there.
well. The
Chlorine
chlorine.
does project
Yes.
well. It opens up really good. So Brian, not beer here, but something that we wanted to share. We dabble in other fermentation, I think I did a lot more of that really in the COVID lockdown period. We were fermenting all kinds of vegetables and everything, reading books and following up on this. But during that time, we discovered Bradleone. I'm not sure. Words are hard, Brian. Words are hard. But at the time, he was with Bon Appetit, and he did a lot of videos for them. He had a series called It's Alive that was talking about fermentation stuff and that. But you, although you're not cooking or into all that stuff, you kind of got into him as well, right?
Yeah. I watched it obsessively. I have a link to playlist for us to look at later, but I had the playlist and I seriously watched every single one of them, and I really did try some of the stuff. So I don't really cook anything, but I made sauerkraut and I fermented vegetables, and I still want to ferment, or I don't know if it's ferment or dry cure or like an egg yolk. It's still something that's been in the back of my head for like years that since I first saw him doing it. And like he dry cure, it becomes like a solid thing. It's almost like a Parmesan cheese, except it's an egg yolk. And then you shave it on the little micro,
like what a truffle,
thing.
shave it over there.
And you shave it over stuff, and it adds like an umami thing. And I'm like, oh my God, I really want to do that. It's just a matter of like, you put it in a bowl of salt and cover it with salt and let it sit for, I don't remember, like a month, but that's still the back of my mind.
There, right?
Yeah. And I'm like, this is cool. So there's a lot to it. It was highly addictive and to watch, and just it's fermentation. So it's in league with what we do. It's just taking fermentation that makes beer and applying it to other things. I love the idea of it. I love the fast turnaround of it. And, so there's a playlist of all of his stuff that ran through, I think, about 2 years ago on the Bon Appetit channel. And he's opened up started his own YouTube channel where he does a lot of adventure stuff. He's gone out fishing various places, and he tasted coffee recently. He went to somewhere in Mexico, I think. They actually taste coffee with professional coffee tasters, and I watched part of that. But what kind of brought this back to mind is I saw a video recently, and I think we both did, where he talked about doing some fermentation again. He got into some tinned sardines and was tasting those as well. So it kind of just jumped right up back on my radar. I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't watched any of his stuff in a while. So if you never checked any of that out, I definitely recommend checking it out. The one thing I got to say, there's a little bit of a caveat. He's very entertaining to watch. I think he's not 100% accurate with all of his details. So there is perhaps a small
from a safety perspective. Yeah.
He's a little loosey-goosey with some of the stuff. Yeah.
So he did. I forget what it was exactly, but it was something he was curing, and they pulled the video. Bon Appetit pulled the video down because they're like, that's not food safe, basically. So
yeah,
and there was another one where he did some kind of brisket or corned beef of some sort, and I guess he caught a lot of grief for it, but he defended it. He definitely does things a little different. He'll do things that are familiar, but bring his own spin to it. And that one you were talking about recently, where they tried the tinned seafood, I actually commented on his video because I wanted some clarification there, because they were trying fermented things, and they went through vegetables and some really interesting like vinegars and such. Like there was an oyster vinegar, I think.
Oh yeah,
they did there a couple things. But before they tried the tinned seafood, there was a graphic that said sea fermentations. Brian, I'm almost positive that those are not fermented. They're just tinned. They're brined, and that's why I was trying to get a clarification. I was like, does brining count as a? But I would think no. There's no fermentation. Fermentation is going to produce some sort of tartness or flavor. None of these do not have that. So I didn't get clarification on that, but I think that may have been in air.
I think
He must
so.
have just wanted to try some tins.
I think so, and I don't hate him for it. I like that you were getting into it, but I recognize some of the tins. I think I've had them, but yeah, everything I've ever seen about the production of that stuff, including I think he did like a Matisse tin. I think their production is they cook the stuff in, they fill the cans, they cook them in the cans.
That's it,
sealed, and there's nothing in there to ferment, so it's clean and it's safe for as long as it stays intact. It's safe indefinitely, basically. So no fermentation. As far as I know, unless he got special tins, and I don't know if those
because they're canned at fairly high heat, so you wouldn't have anything in there that could ferment. There's not going to be any bacteria in there to go to work. So
they'd have to inoculate it after the fact in some way.
I don't think they're doing that, and it's not surströmming. He didn't have like surströmming or anything like that. So
and I don't think the tins would hold up to any pressure. They're not meant to handle internal pressure. I bet you that. Those things would go off like bombs. It'd be like a smelly fish bomb.
That's like, have you ever seen videos of people like opening a can of surströmming?
No.
You've seen
I saw one today.
Yeah.
I watched one today. The guy, like, he just broke the seal and he immediately started retching so much. He had an evacuation of his bowels or of his stomach. And it was
possibly the bowels as well. I've heard it's pretty rough stuff.
It was very entertaining because the wife is like 30 feet into the backyard and she's also retching.
Dave, I saw actually you guys know the dude they call Liver King?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I think he's total schmo, but anyhow, he had a video where he cracked it open and you crack it and it hisses. It's spraying. It'll spray juice out and that.
So gross.
And he's looking tough, so he just took a big old chunk in his hand and swallowed it, and he chewed it up and swallowed it, and he said, no problem for the Liver King. And then a minute later, he's like, I'm having trouble talking. I'm like, yeah, I heard it. But yeah, I guess I forget where it is. Sweden, Finland, somewhere like that, where it's popular. But a lot of the folks over there defend it. And they're like, look, you're not supposed to have a huge chunk. You have it. You get you some onions. You get you some boiled potatoes and, maybe a piece of rye bread and some butter. That there's apparently a method to it, not just grabbing a chunk of sour fish and throwing it in your mouth.
I imagine it would be, I forget the name of it, but that really soft cheese that's, it's very kind of heavy on the ammonia and funk.
The French one that we had?
Yeah, and I think it'd be like opening that up and taking a bite out of it. I imagine it would be the same way. Though I think that I imagine you put more of that on like a bread than you typically would, like the surströmming or whatever the name is. So I'm guessing the one is in very small doses. The other one, that cheese is pretty intense. If you were to take it and like take a big bite out of it, I think all the ammonia's off of it might make you gag a little bit, but I don't imagine it's anywhere near as close. I think that's the intent is probably similar though. Small amounts.
I don't know. I'm curious about this surströmming. I don't know if I'd go as far to say it's like something I want to try, but I'm curious.
Don't be curious about that.
I want to be in an outdoor field about like at the 50-yard line, and they can be in one of the end zones and open it. And I want to smell it from there and see what I think. I'm like, oh, that's gross.
Downfield.
Just have like a box and like pushing the air towards you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like this, like, oh, nope, back.
What if there's a cologne that smells like surströmming?
Kudos.
There probably is.
You don't have to worry about
it off their hands.
Yeah.
You've got tin sardines. You can make your own. I imagine it would be pretty easy to do.
Terrible. Well, guys, in keeping with our theme that we love, stouts are for summer. Not released yet, but announced. Goose Island announced the 2024 Bourbon County Brand Stout lineup, BCBS. And I think they announced it a little earlier this year. I guess if we're already seeing Oktoberfest on the shelf, that it's fair game to actually start talking about the stouts that are coming out. And as always, Bourbon County Brand Stout BCBS releases on Black Friday every year. So go out there and get it. But Brian, I think you dug in deep to get a little more info than just the titles of the beers. But what are we going to see from Old Bourbon County this year? Yeah.
So like you said, the announcement's a couple weeks early. It's actually in July. It's almost always in August. But anyway, so Bourbon County Brand Stout, according to the Forbes article, now there's a difference of opinion between the Forbes article and the official website. We're not going to be getting the OG one in Georgia, if Forbes is correct, they're saying it's 14.7%. It does vary. There's a chance, since the official announcement on the website is not released yet, that it may be under 14%, but it's probably 14.7%. But it is a blend of stouts that spent 16 months in Buffalo Trace, Heaven Hill, Four Roses, and Wild Turkey barrels. Basically, all of the great bourbon barrels out there, all the things that you want to drink. So that's going to be great. We have the Vanilla Rye Stout. It was last released back in 2014, so it's making a return. All I know about that is just that it's been 10 years since we've seen it, and the ABV, like all of the rest of them, is still TBD. So I don't know, knock on wood. Hopefully it's some of these other ones, I've seen them go in like the 11 or 12%. So I think we're probably going to wind up getting a few of these.
We usually get a couple variants.
Yeah.
Usually a couple of the variants are below, below the ABV cap that we've got here.
I'm hoping for this one, a Vanilla Rye Stout sounds interesting. I would definitely pick that up if I could find it. We have the macaroon stout that's coming out. It's intended to reproduce the flavors of homemade macaroons. It's made with cocoa nibs, candied ginger, and toasted coconuts. Again, we don't know the ABV on this yet, but this one being a dessert ish one, I suspect we'll get this one just because I'm guessing the ABV will just be lower, just because they don't want the. I think the candy flavors may not hide the booze as well as maybe just the original stout. Well, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm hoping on this one, really hoping that this one will be closer to like a 12% or something like that.
If they do the flavors well, man, the booze can complement that kind of stuff too. So
true, yeah, it could be like
maybe it's a bourbon soaked macaroon that Granny's bringing out. Everybody loves Granny's Christmas macaroons.
That's right. So, of course, Proprietors barley wine ale. This is a first. It's Proprietors, but this is the first time they've ever used barley wine as the base ever. And the beer is inspired by Mexican spoon candy. I think I've seen that. I don't actually know what that is or tastes like, but it's made with tamarind, lime, guajillo chilies. I hope I said that right. And piloncillo. I don't know if I've said that right either, but so this is Chicago only, as is the case always with Proprietors. And if you see reports of it being on tap somewhere in the outskirts of Georgia, that's a lie. That never turns out to be true. Like
not
the one
true.
year. And yeah, go ahead.
Do you know what piloncillo is? I know the other stuff, but I don't know what that is.
It's a type of sugar.
It's a sugar. Okay.
I believe it's pronounced piloncillo or something like that. And it's like a dark brown sugar.
Okay, so have you guys had the Mexican spoon candy? Because I think I've seen something like that, but I don't think I've ever had it, so I don't have any frame of reference for this one.
I've bought it in bricks and in cones. I actually go back to the Brad Leone. I watched his tepache video to make my own tepache, and he used sugar for it.
Okay, all right, the piloncillo or chio or whatever. It is.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got. Okay, go ahead. Anybody else have something to say?
I'm done. That's all I got for now.
All right. So the last one is the Bardstown Cask Finished Stout. This one goes through an elaborate barrel aging process with Bardstown whiskey. They start using freshly emptied Bardstown rye barrels. They transferred into hybrid oak and cherrywood barrels for finishing. Again, still, we don't know anything about the ABV on this. So this one could be boozy. This may be higher. I don't know. Knock on wood. Maybe we'll get it. Who knows? But my guess is this one might be over 14% as well. So
are these ones, will you guys make an effort to get these if they come to Georgia?
Yeah, I
will. So I don't know how much of an effort I will really make. If I saw Proprietors, I would, if I knew that was coming around, I would definitely get that. But, I would definitely get the macaroon one. I'm interested with the vanilla rye. I always like getting the original if it's ever possible to do, which it hasn't been possible for years. I think I would get that just immediately if I saw it. And the Bardstown Cask one sounds really interesting too. So yeah, I would probably get most of these this year if I saw it. We did. I think Mo McNate was talking about doing a little bit of a road trip up to Tennessee where they have some more sensible beer laws, at least around the ABV, and maybe see if you can grab it up there. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm down for a trip for it or not. I think that seems a bit excessive. We've got a lot
road
of
trip to Chicago.
Oh yeah, I'm not gonna Blues Brothers road trip to Chicago for that, but we'll go to Chattanooga for a day trip.
Yeah. I was meaning about the rest of them, but yeah, the proprietors. If that were available, I would definitely get some of it. But I've had that once or maybe twice. Somebody shared a bottle that they picked up, and yeah, I think it's definitely worth getting. It's a fun beer. I'd get it just because it'd be a great social beer, something you open up with friends.
It's social. Yeah. It's social. I still have a decent handful of 2012, 2013, 2014. I may have one back to like 09 or something.
Oh, wow.
So possibly. I know I had quite a few, and I haven't purchased any in a while. I will say this: the first year after the AB acquisition, and I don't think they were as good. Wasn't there actually an infection or something along those lines? And they did. Anyhow, there was some drama. I forget. That was a long time ago, but I do remember getting them and thinking this just isn't as good as it was previously. But I've had them since then, and I don't normally chase bottles. I'll grab one if I'm out, but normally if I'm out running around and I know that one of my beer bars has it on tap, I'll sit down and get a pour of them. I think a couple years ago, our friends at Truck and Tap had the ones that came to Georgia on. I just went and got a flight, just checked them out there.
Yeah. I forgot what I was going to say, but every time I've ever had them, I've thought they were all right. Oh, I know what I was going to say. I think it was 2016 was the infection year. And I have a really worn out t-shirt that they sent along with a reimbursement for all the infected bottles. I think I still have a few of the infected ones. I opened up one of them. I chilled it and opened up a few years later because I think at the time they said, well, this may turn out to be an all right thing. We can't predict this now. I'm like, no, probably not. I opened it. It was like, no, it's still bad. But they did send a refund on it. And I did get a free t-shirt out of it. So
okay.
Yeah.
They tried to use that sick period excuse. Well, it may have a little sick period, but then it'll be
of like a decade, but then it'll be perfect.
Well, was it White Angel or Golden Angel from Wicked Weed that they did the same thing? Like it was really ropey. And they're like, hey, this will eventually get better. But
I think it was Gold Angel, but I'm not 100% sure. It's been a while.
I think that may be right.
That's 2015 or 2016 too.
That's the days away back. Yeah. That's going back a good bit for sure. Well, Brian, I don't even know what to say to this one. I didn't catch this story. I think it got added a little bit later, so I didn't. But you're talking about something about if you like drinking beer out of a boot, you'll love this beer.
Yeah, I saw. This is a press release I saw, and I was amused by the premise of it, but let me get into it. So Hop Valley Brewing in Oregon put out the press release hyping a hazy pale ale that tastes like a cowboy boot. It's a collaboration with some local leather company or cowboy boot maker or whatever. That's not the important part. My thought is, of course this fits in. We've seen chili cheese beers and mustard beers and hot dog water beers. So yeah, why not cowboy boot beers? They named the beer Hop Valley SH Star T Kicker, which is kind of a predictable name. But the real reason I was interested in this beer is it made me aware of Yakima Valley's Elixir hops. Have you guys heard of Elixir hops before?
Oh.
So apparently on the Yakima Valley website, they say the hops, they are a robust and complex hop that offers unique aromas of cognac, leather, and tobacco. And I was like, is this a cologne or is this a hop?
Yeah, but, sounds like a good cologne.
I'm intrigued, and I think this may make for an interesting pale ale. I don't know, but I'm hoping someone out there will brew an old ale or like a barley wine or age some and throw it in a lambic, because this sounds like this could have some really interesting applications in other styles. In any event, I'm going to be on the lookout for beers with Elixir hops going forward. But if anybody happens to grab one of these, these kicker beers from Hop Valley, let me know what you think. Do they taste like leather, or is that kind of overblown? Because that's the other thing with these hops. Sometimes they talk about these aromas that they have, these flavors they have, and it doesn't come through very strongly. Maybe it's just like a hint of it that you could get under just the right circumstances. So
there was a hop, it was a few years ago now, that kind of made the rounds and made a little bit of buzz because it had a woody flavor to it. And I tried, that was very style dependent. Like you could bring that flavor into some and it was good. Like I've had stouts that will give a leather or a woody note to it, and it's good in the right concentration and in the right beer. But I don't know about a leathery pale ale. I don't know about that. So is the beer out yet? Do we know what Untapped thinks of it, or is it in the works now? Nate, you want to see if that thing's on Untapped there by chance? And so we'll see. Yeah.
Hop
I'm
Valley
curious,
SH Star T Kicker. So
okay,
it's a
all right,
Nate,
name. Get back to us on that.
Yeah.
We'll keep on moving along. But I don't. It does not sound good to me, but it makes for a good press release. Get some entertainment out there. Nate, what you got?
They've got 73 total check-ins so far with a 3.86 average rating.
Really?
Okay, that's not. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, considering what it is, there any comments? Any notable comments there on it?
The first one I saw, 4 out of 5, a solid tasty beer. 4 out of 5, nice summer beer. Nothing really in depth as far as comments go.
No leather or cowboy
no
boot
leather
stuff?
bootiness there. Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's one of the things that, like you said, if it's subtle and maybe if you don't tell anybody, they don't even really notice it. Just could go under the radar there. But anyhow, moving along, we want to shout out our sponsors. We got people that support us for some unknown reason to help us do what we do each and every week. And I want to give a big shout out to our friends at Terrapin Brewery Atlanta at Truist Park. They're the home of the Braves brewery right there. So if you go out on game day or non-game day, there's always going to be some fresh beer there for you to get into. They're always running new and fun stuff on the taps there. They've done collaborations with several of the Braves players that you can try out there. And, you know, I would bet that there is a stout on right now. So if you want to do a stouty summer, you know, the summer of stouts with us here, I bet they'd be able to hook you up. But if you're not feeling that, you know, they're going to have Los Bravos on there, some other Pilsners, Pale Ales, IPAs. I bet Crunkles. I see Crunkles on there a lot if you need some action there on that side of things. But and as we always say, good barbecue there with Fox Brothers with the partnership. So go on, hang out, have a good time, and cheers. Thanks to our friends at Terrapin.
That sounds great. I'll take a Hopsecutioner. So last week, as Tim astutely noted, my Truck and Tap beer picks for the week were all Georgia beer. That was unintentional, but again, there's nothing wrong with that. Georgia makes great beer, and it's well represented at Truck and Tap. But this week, my beer picks will all be non-Georgia beer because your beer options aren't limited by your geography. So starting at Truck and Tap Woodstock, my pick is Angry Chair's Space Grass IPA, a hazy IPA with Simcoe, Azaka, and Eldorado hops. It seems weird to be talking about an Angry Chair beer that's not a big stout like German chocolate or something like that. But
cupcake. There
we go. We got that. Heading over to Duluth, I'm getting a big pour of Jester King's Le Petit Prince, which I just happened to finish right now. You don't have to be shy with this one. Like I was saying, it's a wild farmhouse table beer that has a surprisingly low ABV of 2.9%. How about something else light and refreshing at Truck and Tap Alpharetta? Of course, that means I'm talking about Jackie O's Green and Black Elevators, which is a bourbon barrel-aged stout with cacao and vanilla, coming in at a light and refreshing 12.5% ABV. So crushable. And finally, at the Lawrenceville location, let's go with Yazoo's Funkified Blanche de Nashville. It's an American Wild Ale collaboration with Brooklyn Brewing. That's an interesting blend of wit beer, along with several sour blonde ales, which really sounds intriguing. And by the way, happy first anniversary to Truck and Tap Lawrenceville. And as always, make sure you check out truckandtap.com for all the latest updates before you head out. Check it out before you head out. And thank you once again to Truck and Tap for your support.
Check it out before you head out, or head out and then check it out, because they're going to have something good for you there. You don't have to check it out before you head out, but if you want to, they'll have the info for you there as well. So
that's true.
Do what makes you happy. There.
I am
as
not
long
the
as
boss
you go to
of
Truck
you.
and Tap. That's right.
Yes. Yeah.
Brian is not the boss of you in the least there. In the least. So Brian, Japanese do some interesting things with drinking. And if you've ever seen, at various restaurants, sometimes they have like the Japanese sodas or fruit beverages, and they make these interesting bottles. At the top has kind of got a weird shape and a marble in it. And when you take a drink, it lets you get a little sip, and then the marble plugs the hole. And so so you have to turn it back upright to let the marble fall to get another drink and and really, to slow down, take your time, control it so you're not there chugging your drink. And now there's a brewery there that has created it's not the exact same design, but they've actually made a glass to slow down your beer drink, which I think is just terrible, Brian. Terrible. And, I'm looking at the glass here, but why would they do this to us, Brian?
Yeah, so apparently the brewery conducted a survey. This is about health concerns. Apparently they have an issue, or they're concerned about their patrons just drinking their beer too fast and just drinking too much as a result, and it's going to be, unhealthy for them. They conducted a survey which indicated the number one reason for excessive drinking was people drinking too fast when they drink with others. So they made a glass called the slow beer glass. It looks a lot like an hourglass, like you cinch the center of it up, and a very narrow spot between the top and the bottom. It makes it take about 3 times as long to drink a beer compared with your typical like shaker pint or whatever else you might drink out of, snifter or whatever. The brewery is selling a limited number of glasses through a lottery system that's a little interesting, a little convoluted. I'm not sure I follow it, but the price of the glass, and it's made by an artisan. I think it's actually made by an art school. I forget now. I don't have a link to handy, but it's about $63 to get it if you win the lottery. And they're thinking they might sell more of them if there's a good response to them. What do you think of the glass? You've seen it. It looks like an hourglass.
It does.
Yeah. Are you annoyed by it, or do you think it's a great idea?
I don't think it's a great idea. And I think that you could have done a different design to slow down drinking. I don't, because the top half of the thing, it holds a decent amount of beer.
Yes.
And so to me, and maybe that's the point. So with the way the glass is designed, and again, Brian nails it, it looks like it's an hourglass. So you've got the top, but the opening to the top is like the size of a normal beer glass. So it's not tapered down there. So you've got maybe half the beer already in the top. But then after that, you're just going to get little sips. So I guess they're going to let you get that first big chug.
Yes.
And then after that, you got to take the little sip. I think it's horribly engineered, a stupid idea, and it should not have been done. So most things I'm objective on. This is dumb. This is dumb and poorly designed. Yeah. What do you think of it?
I saw it and I'm like, well, I would try drinking out of it just to see how it performs, because I want to see how the fluid dynamics work with it, to be geeky, even though I'm not a scientist or anything like that. I'm curious how it would it bubble a lot? Would it do weird things? When you hit that halfway point, what would it do? I would never buy one, and I can't see this being practical to use more than once as a kind of a laugh to find out, all right, well, I did this. How does this behave? Yeah. It kind of reminds me of the boss pour things I've seen, where people have these little globes that have the impossibly tiny hole at the top that you actually drink out of, but just a giant round thing. And I see that.
How do you even drink from those things, Brian?
How do you drink from that? I'm like, that's ridiculous. And because there's so little air, it would have to bubble. So you'd have to let air go through. It would just be it would be a mess. So you'd pour it all over yourself. I think it may be well intended. I think it's bad. I wouldn't pay money for it.
I want to see it in action, because I'll eat my words if I have to. I have no problem doing that if I'm wrong, but I don't think that I am, and it looks ridiculous, and I question the I don't know. Yeah, no.
The other thing that made me think about this, I hadn't really seen anybody put this forward at all before anywhere else. Do you drink faster when you're drinking with other people than when you drink alone? I think a lot of people don't even drink alone, but do you drink faster with other people? Do you even notice? That's something I'm like, is this proven to be true? Is this really a thing? I don't know.
Yes. And I'll give you a few examples here. You're out at the bar, you're chatting, you're having a good time, you're just sipping away at your beer. I think just the overall experience probably could speed up your drinking. I know that I personally definitely drink more when I'm out with others in a casual environment. So there's more activity going, the energy level's a little better. Normally when you're drinking by yourself, and of course there's outliers probably in either direction here, you're kind of chilled. You're a little more relaxed with it. It's not as social. And I think back to the times when we had the studio, and we would occasionally just hang out there just for the purpose of going through some of our beers. And I remember leaving you and Nate to stay up till 5 a.m. and I'd see the kill shot of the bottles. And I'm like, how in the world did these guys drink 20 more beers after I left? How did
I have
they do
no
that?
idea
How
how
did
that
they do
worked.
that?
Yeah.
Some of them were dumped.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I agree with you. I don't think it's so much that I'm drinking faster. It's just that I drink more when I'm social drinking.
Okay, fair.
I will say, back when bottle shares were a thing, I never got drunker than at a bottle share when I was drinking like an ounce and a half at a time. And I still to this day do not understand that magic. And I think it's just the speed. Like everybody's excited. Everybody's got to open this stuff up and it's reserved at first, but everybody gets a little alcohol in them. And then everybody's bringing out everything. So if you want to try, Sip of Sunshine or Black Tuesday, you need to get on that right now. Oh, you got something in your glass. You better drink it so you can get some of that. So I think it really was, you wound up doing shots of a lot of interesting and some high gravity beers all at once. And you didn't realize how much you were drinking. But let me tell you, the hangovers were never worse than after, especially a stout share. And the drunk was never quite as intense anywhere else I've ever done. I think that there's a frenzy that happened there. So maybe the bottle shares not being as often is perhaps a good thing. I don't know.
Good thing for you.
Yeah.
See, that's what they should have done for a slow beer glass. They should have made like a liter glass. So it's a big portion, but it tapers up to an opening like the size of like a toothpaste tube. So that's it. You got a liter of beer, but you have to drink it from a hamster bottle. Basically.
Yeah. The little ball. You have to just hang it on the wall and you just have to go over and gnaw on the ball to get some of that. Like, I'm going to stay here until all the Black Tuesday's gone.
And you know what? To the dude that gets like totally gazeboed from doing that, cheers to you, man, because that took effort. Yeah. That took effort. So if you earned it, if you get drunk out of that.
That might be the one time where the actual exertion for doing it you may wind up losing weight. He's like, he got really hammered and he lost 50 pounds, Yes. Yeah. He's thin and drunk, and which is handy because now the alcohol flows through him more. And exactly.
It's just crazy stuff. Well, Brian, moving along to beer production, and I'm going to go ahead and throw out there, we're going to talk about the top 10 beer producing countries in the world and their volume. And Japan is on the list. Japan's on the list there. So maybe, since they're making so much beer, I don't know population difference there, but I know size wise, they're definitely not as big as some of these other countries there. So, okay, but there is some big discrepancy in the volume on this. But Brian, I'll let you take this and look it up. But what countries are making the most beer?
Well, I want to make you guys guess before I go through the list. Who do you think is number one? I've intentionally hidden this.
I saw that. So I see the others on the list. China. I'm going to say China.
Okay. What do you think?
Yeah, I was going to guess India or China. So for argument's sake, I'm going to guess India.
You know what? I'm glad you guessed that because I did have a question about that. It is in fact China, and China makes more beer than the number 2 and the number 3 on the list combined. Where do you think India falls in the list? You could probably see part of the list, the part that I'm going to go over here in a bit.
Yeah, so they're not in the top 10. We'll dive into that. India,
15.
I think they're down. Man. I don't think they're cranking. I don't think it. Oh, it's
well, I know part of the religion precludes them from being able to drink.
20, Brian. 20? I'm going to put them at 20.
15 and 20. All right. I guess Mo Mike Nate wins is 13. They're number 13. Okay. So it's interesting considering the population size. But yeah, I think there are religious reasons in India that might be preventing that, whether or not perhaps in China.
As we've discussed, though, there is a growing scene in India that we've seen there with craft and that. So definitely coming up. I'd like to see historical data on India, like what they've produced, say, over the last decade there.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting. And I was looking for them when I saw that China was number 1. I'm like, well, India can't be far behind. I'm like, oh, they're not. They are quite far behind. But anyway, so here's the top 10, and these numbers are all measured in hectoliters, which is 26.4 gallons. So multiply these numbers by 26.4 to get your gallons. At number 10, we've got South Africa with 35.1 million. Poland's got 35.8 million hectoliters. Spain, 41.3 million. Japan is 45.3 million. Russia jumps up to 83.4 million. Germany just edges them out slightly with 84.8 or 84.9 million, I guess would be the rounding. Mexico jumps up quite a bit to 142.4 million. Brazil is 148.9 million. The United States in number the second spot, 193 million, and China is 359 million. So they're just hugely above us. And
China, huge jump there, almost double. What made me say China on that one is I remember hearing a statistic one time that the number one selling beer in the world, I think it's called Snow, is a macro in China. And I remember seeing the statistics there, like they were comparing it to, Bud Light or the macros that we know. And it was about like this, like double, like it was just a huge number there that they sold. So that's what, and I mean, it's a massive country, big population. I knew that their one beer was the best selling one in the world. So that didn't surprise me. And looking at these other countries, I mean, you think of the size of these countries, you're looking at, the US or China, and Russia is a little bit surprising because they're massive,
yes,
but I think
huge.
A lot of that is just gulags in the tundra, though.
It's real estate more than it is population, I think, with Russia.
And I wonder, they talk about vodka, of course, is kind of stereotypical there. So maybe if we looked at number one vodka producing, the top 10 vodka producing countries, maybe there would be a lot more show up there for Russia. But interesting. Okay.
I actually did Google the top beer sold in China, and it was Snow at one point in time. I believe right now that's in the number 2 spot behind Tsingtao. Yeah, I think it may have been usurped, and it's interesting for a beer that I had never heard of before I saw it in a list like this. And I got this from VinePair. It may have been VinePair many years ago that I saw it. Like, oh, I've never even heard of that beer, and it's like the number 1 selling beer in China and possibly one of the biggest brands in the entire world. I'm like, how could I have never heard of this? So
yeah,
I don't even know if this makes it outside of China, to be honest. And it's still,
I know Snow does not, because that was something I looked at when they said it was the number 1 selling. I'm like, well, how far does this distribute? And they're like, nope, stays in China. So I don't know if that's still the case. This has been many years ago, but they were number 1 in the world they're like the New Glarus of China. It's like they're all New Glarus in one state, and they still make like the top 10 breweries, largest breweries on the BA's craft brewery list.
They should make a beer called New China's. That'd be neat. Okay, maybe not.
Terrible. Where's that? Do we have a sound like a womp womp or a boo or something? I don't know.
Not anymore.
I don't think we have anything this doesn't really apply. No. Sorry, I didn't have anything. I'll have to add that.
Scandalously bad.
I have to add that to the list so I have something at the ready for the next time. For Brian, more info. Summer beer. Stouts are for summer. Pilsners are for summer. Beer is for summer. And now there's a survey that proves that as fact, right?
Yeah, according to a survey by Morning Consult for the Beer Institute, so this is totally not biased at all, Americans are calling it the summer of beer, or at least they're drinking more beer than any other beverage this summer overall, statistically. 2/3 of Americans, 66%, opted or will opt for beer in the past 3 months. I guess they opted, past tense. Exceeding wine, 54%, liquor at 50%, and cocktails at 43%, which is a little surprising. Got a few more stats. 66% of Americans will enjoy beer at a barbecue this summer. 45% will be drinking it at pool parties. 40% say they will have it at the beach. 39% will be cracking a cold one at picnics or outdoor festivals. 45% of Americans are choosing lagers for their summertime refreshment. 35% say they're doing it because of the crispness of the style. 33% are saying it's for the lightness of the style, and 26% are saying it's for the bright and or vibrant characters of lager that they're going for. And a little bit of a tidbit that I picked up reading about this, apparently 40% of beer sales happen between Memorial Day and Labor Day each year. So 40% of the beer sold in the year happen in that time. So we're in the sweet spot for beer.
Right, in the sweet spot. I think, I'm not sure how newsworthy or news breaking this info is, because I think beer usually is the drink of summer in America. You got your backyard barbecues and that, but I think this may be more relevant now because we're hearing so much about people moving away from beer.
Correct. Yeah.
Saying that they're We had the White Claw summer a few years ago. And you know what? I called that was a fad. And there were people saying, no, there's things with this that are different that show it has staying power. I'm like, no, I'm old enough to have seen wine coolers and
Zima.
other FMBs and Zimas and all that come and go. They always come and go. There's always something there. And I have seen that uncarbonated drinks like vodka waters are becoming more popular now. So I think that's the next wave. We're going to see those, the whatever generation is, I don't even remember, but whatever generation it is, doesn't like carbonation. So they're doing that. I actually saw, I forget the brand name, but right here in my little town of Woodstock, vodka water brand launched recently.
Really?
So
Okay.
I saw some info about them out there, but yeah. So I don't know, man, but get on it, drink all the beer that you can there. We get into it. They say Pilsner, man. We know stouts are for summer, but whatever.
This might be an opportunity for that. Was it Highball? Is that the drink I'm thinking about? I think it was just like it's a mixture. It really is just a blend of
like
some variety of whiskey and water in a certain ratio.
Yeah, that's a Highball.
And I messed around with that a little bit, and it's not bad if you like what tastes like a watered down whiskey. It's pleasant. It's actually not bad depending on the whiskey you choose. It's not going to be my preferred thing, and I really don't think that people are going to long term make a movement away from anything carbonated. I don't see that happening. I think this is just like a flash in the pan, but I don't know.
The thing that gets me is like if you get like a Scotch on the rocks or bourbon on the rocks, I always am disappointed when it starts to get watered down a little bit. So it's tough for me to think I would actively choose to get one. I'm like, I want whiskey, but I need you just water it down for me. I mean, I could understand if you want to do, throw you some soda, pour it in some Coke or something, but just diluting your whiskey, what are you doing with your life?
I think the idea is you're kind of you're picking the right ratio of it, and if you start out that way, I didn't hate it, and I agree with you, because when you first have your whiskey on the rocks, whatever, if you get that, I don't typically get that, but it's great. It's like, oh great, this is wonderful. And if you don't drink it fast enough or at the end, it's sad and it's watery, but you started out with it like being as close to neat as it's going to get, and then you wind up with it watery. This, you start off at a level of wateriness, and I guess depending on ice, and I don't know if you even put ice in it, to be honest with you. I think you may chill the glass. It doesn't get watery, more watery. I think it stays at that level. So you have a consistent thing. You dial in that level that you want, that's got the right flavor profile that's coming through from the whiskey, and you go with that, and you've got that continuously. So
okay. I guess if it's your thing, man, I would try it. I would try it to see. I don't think it sounds like one that will really, be my thing, but whatever. If it's your thing, it's your thing. Rock on.
I do kind of hope, I know in the past we've had a bunch of different like pre-made cocktails. Like I like that. I actually like those, and over the years I've seen them come and go and just fail. I mean, I think, wasn't there Lynchburg lemonade was a thing for a while, and it kind of disappeared, and
the bottles look like little mini Jack Daniels bottles at the time.
I didn't drink them very often, and maybe that's part of the problem, but I like those, and I like the idea of well-made pre-canned, pre-made cocktails. I like that. I don't have any interest in their other stuff, but the cocktails, I'm like, if you did a good job with it, yes, do that, because there are times where I want a good cocktail. I don't have the ingredients for it, but I'm not going to buy the bottles to make the one, and I'm not going to go buy a $20 cocktail somewhere. I get it $4 or $5 at the liquor store when I'm picking something else out, and throw it on ice, and boom, I've got, I don't know, a Negroni or something like that.
Should we do a canned cocktails, like an RTD cocktails episode? Like get a few out there, try them out, and kind of give our recommendations, because there's some not great ones out there. That's for sure.
Yeah,
right. I've tried like one brand that I know, Cutwater. I typically enjoy what they do.
Yes.
Whistle Pig has a line that they call Piggyback. I think is Piggyback. I think that is
It's one of their.
I don't know if I want to say lesser quality or maybe not quite as high end. Lesser quality probably isn't the right way to put it, but less inexpensive offerings.
Lower age statement, perhaps.
Probably.
Yeah, their Piggyback is a 6-year rye. It's a more affordable, younger.
Yeah. But they do some canned cocktails with that are really good. So, all right, Nate, you start keeping an eye out for, maybe grab a couple if you see them, and we'll collaborate and put us a list of canned cocktail. And if you're listening and you have any favorites that we need to keep an eye out for, let us know. And
that'd be fun.
We'll get that together. We've been talking about doing another themed show here recently where we get together and sample some stuff and talk about it. And I think canned cocktails could be an interesting turn for us there. A little something different.
Maybe I'll do
and now for something completely different.
That's right. And maybe I'll do one of my freezer door things. I've pre-made an entire batch of something in a repurposed liquor bottle and put it in the freezer. And I've been pretty happy with most of them. You had one that was mixed poorly, but the one that subsequently
it was just pure alcohol. Yeah. Brian's like, here, this is a cocktail. I'm like, no, it's not.
This is ethanol.
Yeah.
You sure about that?
I could run my car off of this. It
wasn't bad.
It was. Well, if you like straight tequila, then you're right. If that's what you like to do, then you're straight tequila with a little bit of lime flavor. Then I would have to agree, Brian. It was not bad.
My ratios were off on it. The first and the third batch that I made have been great. So
you'll get it next time.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, y'all, that about wraps it up for our time this week. We appreciate you hanging out with us as always. If you like what we're doing here, we would love for you to tell a friend, share the show, get others listening, and let us know what you want to hear from us. If you really like what we're doing, then please do follow us on Patreon. Come support us over there. $5 a month or more if you want to, but we'll get you in on our Discord server. We'll invite you to the after party here, share a beer with us, hang out and chat on camera. So we would love to do that. But we hope that y'all have a fantastic week. And as always, don't forget to drink local. Cheers.